Hello and welcome to Everyday Politics with Laura May Lindo. I am your host, Laura May, and here we are on land held down, cared for, loved and stewarded by the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe and the Neutral people, right here on the Haldimand Tract. And today, as I'm inviting a very dear friend of mine and community advocate, Marjorie Knight, to speak with me about the unhoused and a crisis amongst the hidden homeless, I'm thinking a lot about the ways in which Indigenous community members have asked us to connect the dots. If you take the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's report, for instance, and you take the calls to action, you realize that they have literally gone through a sordid history where a colonial state has and continues to harm Indigenous community members on their land, and they've offered us hope by connecting those dots for us. And in the connecting of those dots, they've suggested to us ways in which we can actually walk a path of reconciliation, an action-oriented pathway for change. Well, when I think about the housing crisis and I think about conversations about those that are unhoused, and I think about the fight for supportive housing, and I think about the last two episodes where we've been speaking about supervised consumption sites, for instance, for me, those issues are dots that need to be connected. If we start to connect each of those dots, there's the possibility of imagining a different kind of community, a community that's based on care, a community based on compassion, and most importantly, a community that centers the dignity of every single person that is part of it. And so I cannot wait to jump into a very important conversation with Marjorie Knight. We will be right back after these messages.
It's the personal finance show that dares to ask those money questions you've always wanted to. Join Mike Vargatoth when he talks with experts on all aspects of money. Money Matters with Mike Vargatoth, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on Rogers.
David Prang from the Chamber of Commerce, Brantford Brant, speaks with community members about events and organizations that impact the city of Brantford and the county of Brant. Chamber TV, Thursdays at 6:30 p.m., right here on Rogers TV.
Hello, welcome to Lions TV Bingo. An announcement, we are now on Mondays. Yes, every Monday from now on, Lions TV Bingo is going to be here on Rogers, and we're off like a herd of turtles. Roll 29. 4 $500 prizes, one $3,500 prize, all the trivia you can imagine, and some of my bad jokes. We'll see you this Monday.
For 25 years, you've been helping to make our roads safer by doing the right thing. You've been the designated driver, you've stayed over, called home, you've called a cab or a friend, and planned ahead. Let's keep doing the right thing. Support sober driving by getting yourself and your friends home safely.
Do the right thing.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
Hi, I'm Stacey Bester, the host of Sweet Occasions here on Rogers TV. I'm so looking forward to season 7, where we're serving up both sweet and savory dishes. I hope you'll tune in and enjoy all of the flavors that we have for you. And don't forget to make every day a sweet occasion.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome. And thank you, Marjorie, so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me. This is going to be fun.
Oh, this is going to be lit. So listen, yeah. I'm going to start very high level. But a lot of people will know that there is this point in time count that's happening. The federal government has organized it. I wanted to ask you if you could speak a little bit about this point of time count, because it should be coming out, or actually it is out. So now it'll be circulating in community. Can you speak a little bit about it and how you have interacted with it, what impact it has on the kind of work that you're doing in community?
So What it's intended to do is to take a snapshot of homelessness in our community. So we do a count over 2 or 3 days. So you have many organizations participating, street outreachers everywhere, going out and doing the count, doing a survey with people, finding out information about who is out there that is homeless. Usually I am not involved in that.
Okay.
This year, just watching the way homelessness has been increasing at a pace that is, I hate the word, but unprecedented.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had several families this year who camped in provincial parks and local parks all across the region for the summer because they had nowhere to live. So it's not an encampment, but there was camping going on because that was the housing that they had for the summer. So
would the point in time count capture that?
Not necessarily, because again, that's a part of the hidden homelessness. How will you know unless you know that this family is not just doing their summer camping?
Yeah.
So I am aware of families who camped for the summer.
Yeah.
Some of whom are still camping, which is difficult because now those camping sites are closing down for the year, and they are now engaged in trying desperately to find housing, shelter, something. I am reaching out to these families to make sure that they are a part of the count this year, and that we know about them and what's happening. Now, I say that very carefully because it's an anonymous count. You can't, there's no names, there's no information that's going to identify you. But we need them to be a part of this count.
And let's talk about that. Like, so I'm gonna have you spend some time speaking about this notion of hidden homelessness. But before we do that, why is it important to have good data collected for this point in time count? Like, does that information that we're collecting, we're checking to see where folks are and what their needs are, does it get connected to policy initiatives, investments in community, like any of those kinds of conversations?
It will have to. Homelessness is probably the biggest problem that we have right now. Not just in our region, but across the country. We need to know what we're dealing with. And yes, the point in time doesn't capture everybody, but it gives you a snapshot, an idea of what we're dealing with. Year to year, we will see the changes in just how many people are homeless. We need to know this information because we need to plan for things. When in our region, we're talking about the plan to end chronic homelessness, PECH. How will we end chronic homelessness unless we know what homelessness is?
And what it looks like today.
And who, yes.
It's funny because before we sat down, you said something to me and I'm gonna repeat it probably poorly, but hopefully you'll fix it because you're smart. But you said to me, right now we're fabricating homelessness.
We are literally generating it. We are making homelessness. And what do I mean when I say that? More people are becoming homeless than being housed. So for instance, we have entire apartment buildings that are being renovated. So we have an entire apartment building of people who suddenly have to be looking for housing. Fixed income, seniors, people on ODSP, people on CPPD, God help them. They have to find housing. How will they earn their income? So if we're not preventing homelessness, then we will continue to generate homelessness and we will never be able to end it. We will never be able to fix the problem.
Well, and the other piece that I always come back to is like our conversations about all of this are so siloed, right? So the point in time count, that's talking about homelessness or those that are unhoused. But our housing crisis and affordability is talking about people that wouldn't be the folks that would be captured in this point in time count, because it's like we cannot do two things at once.
And it would be very difficult. I talked to a friend the other day who told me that she lives in a condo, and her rent tripled in one go.
Oh my gosh.
Then I have people who are on OW, who we have walked the walk with to find them housing, to get them finally something they can afford that is somewhat decent, that they can live in. And then their rent gets raised by $400.
Oh my gosh. And the government's not changing ODSP or OW rates, so that $400, where is that to come from?
And the thing is that there have been attempts made to assist people. There have been rental supplements that have been worked out and given to people to help them stay housed. But what happens when the rent raises even above the supplement that they've gotten to pay rent?
Yeah.
There is a limit to how much you can keep adding on and adding on and adding on.
Yeah.
We have a problem with housing, and a lot of it has to do with the cost of it. I can't even use the word affordable, because affordable for whom?
Yeah. Yeah.
If we're not talking about rent geared to income at this point. I laugh every time somebody talks to me about somebody using, 30% or more. 30%? Who? Who uses 30% of their pay to pay rent? You're paying 70%, 80% of your rent of your income is going to rent.
Yeah.
And it's not sustainable.
So one of the things that I try to do with this program as I'm talking to folks, I think of the resources that we need to make sure that people are aware of. So one of them, the rent geared to income fiasco, because it was under the current government, but I want to say 2019-ish was when they removed the rent geared to income.
Well, it's not that they removed it, but what they did is that they to qualify for that kind of thing is very tight. So we have...
I like how you checked your words. You're so good.
We have... People have to qualify to be able to take advantage of things.
Yeah.
I'm a family outreach worker. You have to be means tested to be eligible for my program. You have to be means tested to be eligible to get into housing, social housing, which would then be the RGI. How much of it is left? And seriously, if you look at the way things are now versus what they were, if you went back 10 years, somebody who made $60,000 a year was fine. They could pay rent, they could pay a mortgage, they could send their kids to camp, they could eat, they could do all the things. Now, if you are a parent with 3 kids and you make $60,000 and you're paying market rent, you can barely keep food on the table. The children will never go to camp. Half the time they can't get Friday pizza. And there's nothing left. And so if one thing happens, if one thing goes wrong, you're skating. And we talk about food bank use, for instance, and how high it has become. People who work at good jobs, who make $60,000, $70,000 a year, suddenly are using the food bank because they cannot make ends meet. So they don't meet any eligibility requirements because they make too much money. So they are not getting help in this way, and they can't function that way.
Well,
So
and we're
where are
seeing,
they?
this is it, right? Where are they? We're seeing so much information from food banks across the province, and I would argue across the country,
Yes.
with the rise in usage and reliance on the food bank. Like I think we have these romanticized ideas about what these social services were meant to be. Like they're supposed to be in the case of an emergency, you go. But this is a group of people whose everyday existence is in the state of emergency.
Well, this is a thing. My program helps people, so it gives you something towards your bills. It does not pay your bills. It does not buy your groceries. It does not give your child diapers and formula. It helps you to afford it.
Yeah.
But the problem is that the number of people who now can't afford it has grown exponentially and has grown way outside of the boundaries of what it used to be.
Yeah.
So people who are now becoming homeless in a lot of ways are the people who were working, who were doing well, who, you know, had no need for extra help. And in fact, were the ones who were donating to the food bank and donating to our programs and donating here and there. All of a sudden, they're now in need and we have no donations.
And sometimes the reason they were donating was because they could understand how easily you could be one of the folks that's in the point of time count unhoused.
But here we are. And at that stage, when someone like that becomes unhoused, they have no idea what to do or where to go.
Yeah.
And they will go from place to place to place because they're not eligible for anything.
Yeah.
You know, it's when I lost my house and I was homeless, and I remember sitting there thinking, what am I going to do? I had no idea what to do, and I went to this person, to this elected official, to that person, asking, can you help me? What do I do now? How can I? You know, I farmed my children out. But the other thing is, you can't just get up and walk and go, oh, you know what? I need somewhere to stay. Let me walk to a shelter. Because you cannot just walk to a shelter and go, hey, shelter me, I have no home.
Yeah.
Because they don't even have the space for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's incredible how many people call me because they have nowhere to go. And when they tried to get into the shelter was full. They could not go. Well, what do you do? What do you do when you're standing on the side of the road at 9 o'clock at night with an infant in your arms and a toddler at your feet? What do you do? And this is what we're dealing with.
Yeah. So I have to take a deep breath. So first off, I'm going to take a deep breath because I think one of the things that you're touching on is the ways in which these bigger issues that we are all trying to fight are interconnected.
Absolutely.
And that language that you've been using around hidden homelessness is so, so, so important. And so what I'm going to do is we're going to take a deep breath, sort of internalize some of the insights that you've shared with us at that high level. And when we come back after the break, I want us to go a little bit deeper into this idea of hidden homelessness. So for now, you are welcome to have some of the fresh bread from Chez Dr. Lindo.
I can't wait.
We will be right back.
Do you like talk radio? Catch a televised simulcast of The Mike Farwell Show. Listen to callers rant or rave. Watch interviews with guests on topics impacting your community. The Mike Farwell Show, weekdays from 10 till noon on Rogers TV.
Hey guys, Steph here from The Cruise TV, the show where we talk about the people and stories behind the coolest cars on the road. Join us on Sundays at 8 p.m.
Sundays for Pairs is a service that we believe will help you discover more of God's promises and purpose for your life. A reminder that God is for you. Courtesy of Pairs Community Church. Join us every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. on Rogers TV to be encouraged and pointed towards hope.
This is a man's heart, a heart in desperate need of medical attention. But because 78% of Indigenous people experience racism in healthcare, he may not get the help he needs. Become an ally. Rise above racism in healthcare.
Hey folks, it's me, Giovanni Petiti, the host of Not Tonight. It's the new late night talk show right here on Rogers TV. We got fabulous guests, a lot of laughs. It's just like the Jimmy Kimmel Show, if you order the Jimmy Kimmel Show on Wish. So join me Sunday at 10 o'clock right here on Rogers TV. Nice.
Welcome back, everyone, and thank you again, Marjorie, for sitting down and talking to me about this. What I'd like to do is to give you some space to dive a little bit deeper into this language around hidden homeless, like why it's important for us to know. But before I do that, I just want to let folks that are watching know that part of the resources that we're going to have, I will find the legislation around rent geared to income so that we can get a sense of what's happening. And I would strongly encourage you to follow the legislation because the House is now in session. Homelessness and the notion of affordable housing, it's all the rage in political circles. And so we need to sort of keep an eye on what's happening at that level. But the other thing that I'm going to make sure that we have in the resources is information about the food banks. And also, during the break, you and I were talking a little bit about the food program through the House of Friendship. And so if you've been to any of your local community centers, you might note that there are certain days that you can go, I think it's certain days that they can go, to pick up some fresh foods, some cold foods, etc. I was just telling Marjorie about going to Victoria Hills, actually, and seeing the line literally all around the building because of the amount of people that are in need. And I want to be very clear, this is what our job is. Our duty, I think, as community members is to make sure that people have what they need. So it's wonderful that we have these programs. My concern is that we're creating a system that literally has evolved into this crisis of the hidden homeless. And so with that, I'm just going to ask you if you can walk us through that language. What is it that you're seeing, and why is it important for us to understand who is out there?
When people talk about homelessness, they often talk about what I call the visible homelessness. They see the people lying down on the street. Mm-hmm. We hear a lot about addictions and mental health, and these are the folk that people are talking about. They are there and they are homeless, and we need programs to assist. There are others who are homeless, and in fact, the majority of whom are homeless are not seen. If I am a single mother with children and I am homeless, I am going to be very, very quiet about being homeless because there is a fear of my children being taken away.
Yeah.
I would tell you a small story. I met a woman who fled an abusive partner with her children. She did not live here, she lived in London. She tried to access shelter there and was unsuccessful. She was told she could sign up every evening to try and get beds for her and her children at a particular shelter.
To try.
So that meant there's not a guarantee, but every night you possibly could have somewhere to sleep at night.
Yeah.
Other than that, there was no hope of finding shelter. At this point, she cannot afford rent. She's in the process of getting on OW and this kind of thing to go look for housing. But of course, as you know, affordability. So she's desperate for housing. She's living in a van with her children. She comes up the 401 to Kitchener-Waterloo to see if perhaps she can find housing here, if she can find shelter here until she can get her feet under her. Comes here, well, no, you can't because you're not from here. You're from there, so you have to go back there. There's nothing there.
Where there is nothing.
And you're not, there's nothing here. But on top of being told that there's nothing here, there's also a call being made to FNCS to say that this woman is not providing the basics of life for her children. So now, here we are, our wildest nightmares are coming to jump out at us. Fortunately, we have made some advances in the way we help people through Family and Children Services, and they're much more collaborative and working with the parents to try and, and I mean, and they say, they recognize that she is doing the very best that she can to look after her children, and the trauma of ripping these children away from their parents in the middle of such general trauma is even worse. And that recognition is there, and so it's more of working with the family to try and find a way to find something, whether it is here or there or wherever. But the bottom line is she has nowhere to go. And treading very lightly because it's a real possibility of her losing her children. A lot of people will couch surf, or they will couch surf their children. So their children will go from place to place while they will live in their vehicle, or they will go to shelters at night. There are seniors who are doing a lot of couch surfing. There are seniors who are in hospitals who aren't bad enough to go to long-term care, but they have nowhere to go, and they're almost literally discharged to the street. I know in Cambridge, with Bridges Shelter, that we have been very careful to look out for those seniors, especially those who are more fragile. And we have a special space for them for now. We have a special space for them, but everybody doesn't. So what happens to all of these seniors? And remembering that almost 76% of, shelter right now are seniors. And it's a growing number because fixed incomes cannot keep up with rent, cannot keep up with mortgage, cannot keep up with property taxes. So that's a huge section of population who is also going homeless. Outside of everybody's vision.
I'm gonna pause you there for just a second, because you've now brought up yet two other areas that we talk about separate and apart from these conversations about folks that are navigating homelessness. On the one hand, folks that have are experiencing domestic violence, and so you're making a choice to save yourself by leaving one situation only to find yourself in another situation that is also unsafe, and a society that thinks it's separate and apart. And then you add the lack of shelter space available for folks that are fleeing violence. Yes, we have some emergency shelters, but I was just reading that we don't have an emergency women's shelter in the region.
It is absolutely ridiculous. We have quite a population of women and children who are homeless, and we have no shelter. We have, in Cambridge, been trying forever to have shelter for women. Porchlight, requested funding, $36,000, I believe, for 6 beds, and got denied. YWCA Cambridge has spent a lot of time looking for somewhere to put a shelter. No help from the powers that be in making a shelter. How can we not have a women's shelter? It is not safe, and I'm sorry. I hear what everybody says, and co-ed shelters, they have their place, especially for couples without children. Yeah. Yes, I get that. But it is not safe for a lot of women to be in a co-ed shelter. And women, we need a women's shelter. If you want to say that half of the population is women, then why isn't half of the shelters for women?
Well, and again, if we go back to your example, like somebody who's fleeing domestic violence, being in a co-ed shelter can be triggering.
Absolutely.
Right? Like the level of fear. But again, if we're going to do the work, you've got to do all the work.
All of it.
All of the work.
And also to realizing that in a lot of cases it's women and children.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we have to make allowances for the children. They need to be in a safe space.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we don't have it. We do not have it. We have one family shelter right now, which is in Waterloo.
Yeah.
And can I tell you, it's far.
Yep.
I have to drive up there from Cambridge, like, man, this is far.
It is far.
So it is away from everything. In all of this, we forget things like school.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you.
So I have the family who was camping, who tried to register their child for school and was told that they couldn't register their child because that's not a real address.
Because it's not a permit, yeah.
So wait a minute. Are we now saying that children who are homeless, because children are not in a bubble, children who are homeless can't be registered in school?
So now they don't have access to education.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. And I reached out to some people at the school board, and they are, they're on it, helping to get this child into school. But these are the challenges.
Yeah.
So if I'm moving into shelter, do I have to move the child in school, and then a child moves school, and then you find housing somewhere, and then you're moving them again into school, and this is not good for the kids.
Well, and the other piece that you're drawing on, and I do want to make, I'm having a stick a pin moment where I have to say we are going to come back. I want us to spend a bit of time talking about seniors, because that growing number of people, we're missing that. But one of the things that you're also touching on is the fact that you have a particular family, an individual instance. You can get the board to understand what's happening with that particular family, and they're like, okay, wait, our policies aren't working if this is what's going on. But it's also a cry for system change, because that one example that you've given, I know from your experience, is not solitary.
No, it is not. We're always coming up against something where it goes, oh, well, this can't be.
Yeah.
And, but we are in such a dynamic situation at this point, where the sheer numbers of people who are becoming homelessness and having to pick up and move and be almost like nomads to find, shelter over their heads, that it's creating a lot of these opportunities, and we have to figure out how to deal.
Yeah. And so now bring it right back, because you were saying we've got women, we don't have the women's shelter. But we're also hearing this growing number of older adults across our region, and again, across the country.
This is across
This is huge, isn't it?
The world.
There we go.
No, this is across the world. And why have we not planned for it?
Yeah.
We talk about these boomer people all the time, of which I am one, I must tell you. But we talk about them all the time, this massive generation, these baby boomers. Well, they're all old now, man. I'm, at the wash belly of the boomers. And I am in my 60s.
Yeah.
So you're talking about a huge population of older folk.
Yeah.
Now, if they are on fixed incomes, they are struggling.
Yeah.
They're also full of infirmities and mobility issues and problems. We have little to no supportive housing, definitely not enough to deal with the need, much less that burgeoning need of all these old people who are going to need better forms of housing. They're going to need supportive housing. They're going to need accessibility.
Yeah.
I mean, and let's face it, that there's this whole big population. We're already failing people who are disabled who need the same thing. So that just pushes the envelope even further. How did we not plan for this?
Well, and it's interesting, when I was in office, one of my earlier bills was a private member's bill calling for a seniors advocate. In BC, there is a seniors advocate, and we sort of modeled the Ontario version of the bill on the legislation in BC. And again, it was another example of the bill passed, went to committee, the government chose not to call it. But that said, because I'm an eternal optimist, one of the things that I'm going to do for those that are watching is make sure that the legislation for the seniors advocate is actually linked as one of the resources, because one of the things that we can do is make sure that we start calling for this with concrete examples, right?
I've been working with Professor Bill O'Leary from Laurier, because he's doing a whole project around seniors living on the edge. So he has been meeting with people in our community who work with seniors. And again, one of the things that you realize again is how siloed everybody is. And so bringing everybody together to look at what the situation is with seniors, what needs to happen to get the data, to get the research, to get everything, so that we have something to go, here it is. Look, here's the data. This proves all that we've been shouting into the abyss all this time.
Absolutely.
Here it is. And I'm really happy that he took that on, because we're getting very good data from that.
Well, listen, if there's any information about that project that you can share with me, like if they have a project website or anything like that, then I'll make sure to link that resource as well. We're going to take another quick break, but when we come back, I want us to start talking about that, like the strategies that we have on the ground right now. How effective are they to address the increase of hidden homelessness? But we'll take a moment. I'm going to offer you a little bit more snacks, and then we will be right back. We will be right back with you.
Personal finance show that dares to ask those money questions you've always wanted to. Join Mike Bregueth when he talks with experts on all aspects of money. Money Matters with Mike Bregueth, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Hey guys, Steph here from The Cruise TV, the show where we talk about the people and stories behind the coolest cars on the road. Join us on Sundays at 8 p.m.
For me, it all started here. I do my best work here.
Scores! Oh my goodness! This guy's dangerous from here, here, and here.
We're watching history in the making here.
Are you watching this?
And our fans are up here. I'm here for it. It's all about what's up here and what's in here.
Sportsnet, here for hockey.
Hey, we're Chris and Kim.
We are the hosts of What's Buzzin' Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. on Rogers TV.
We're going to chat about what's trending, interview some awesome guests, and just get to hang out with you. We're in your living room, having a blast on a Wednesday, and Cameron might bully me a little bit too.
Slightly.
That could happen too, because that's what we do.
Just because I'm here.
Yeah, and that's Wednesday nights on Rogers TV. Let's do this.
This is a perfectly healthy child. What's unhealthy are birth alerts, a racist practice that may stop this Indigenous mother from going home with her newborn. Become an ally. Rise above racism in healthcare.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Marjorie, I just want to jump right into a burning question for me, right? We, on the ground, like folks looking outside of the issue of addressing chronic homelessness, for instance, right, know that there are a number of action plans and strategies that people are putting forward, like the region is putting forward, you know, a strategy on this, that, and the other. In your opinion, from the work that you do on the ground, do you think that the approaches that we're taking right now can actually address the chronic issue that we have with hidden homelessness?
Well, I think part of what you have to look at is what is chronic homelessness. And it's talking about people being homeless over a specific period of time or more than. Realizing that now just about anybody who's homeless now will be chronic because it will take that long to find housing, shelter. Right? So everybody's chronic. Are we doing enough? What are we doing? You know, in our region where we are working on the plan to end chronic homelessness.
Yeah.
And I know that, you know, we've done several iterations of this from the past. Do I hope that this one will do better? I live in hope that this one will do better. We have the community at large there. We have...
What's the name of this plan?
It's called PECH, the Plan to End Chronic Homelessness.
Okay.
And, you know, I'm usually there, you know, standing on the table yelling, you know, prevention.
If you've been in a room with Marjorie, you know, she's on the table and she's yelling about prevention. I love it.
Right? So, you know, but there are representatives from every section of community, including those with lived experience. And there is a coming together of people to try and make a plan, recognizing that it's going to take significant investment to make this happen, to talk about who we're going to get money from, what pocket of investments we're going to get it from, whether we're getting some from the region, from the cities, from the province, from the federal, because let's face it, everybody's going to have to be involved. Private sector, everybody's going to have to be involved. It's that much of an investment, but it's an investment that we need to make. The biggest hurdle is political will. And also the fact that in some cases, I don't think they actually understand the process. It's not...
You have to get Jamaican with them. They have to overstand it.
Because the thing is that it's not linear. And it's not, okay, then I'm going to give you this and you're going to do that. And I'm going to give you this and you're going to do... No, because there's a lot of moving pieces and interlocking. And you have to, in some ways, take it on faith that this is the process. You know, for people who are there for 4 years, and this obviously is a longer term plan, 2030, there are things that you will need now that will not bear fruit
until.
And people, especially politicians, find it very hard to work with that premise. So the biggest stumbling block is going to be political will.
Because for the politicians around us, the idea is, if I invest in year 1, by year 4, I have to show the return on investment so that I can get reelected in year 1 again.
And you know, it's, and in some cases, I think that they don't necessarily understand what they're looking at. It's not in their wheelhouse. You know, it's not, there are things that people will talk about that I have no idea what you're talking about. But boss, you're the expert. I'll be led by you. But it's not that easy, being a political person, to let go of what's tangible. But there's a lot that's not tangible in this, and there's a lot of money involved in this. We have to do re-education of people, of organizations, of who does what. We have to integrate systems. We have to we have to teach people to do things in a different way. We talk about things like, what kind of lens do you treat people through? A human rights lens. And I find myself saying to people, we spoke about this human rights lens. Is this your human rights lens?
Yes.
Because, man, we are not on the same page on this. We need to. So there's a lot of education, re-education, a lot of learning, a lot of integration. There's a lot of things that have to happen. And they have to happen at the same time.
Well, and I wonder too sometimes if we could help the elected folks around us at all levels of government, because as you've noted, this impacts every level of government, right? So if we could get them to truly trust the organizations that are doing this work on the ground enough to, come election time, when they're at their 4-year mark and they've invested in year one. First off, invest in year one. But then you've invested in year one and you're at the 4-year mark, that you trust that when the organization says to you, but we're moving in the right direction, that becomes the win.
Well,
do you know
here's
what I
the
mean?
thing. As a politician, primarily you're there in a place of service for your community.
Oh, can you pause? Say that again, louder for the people in the back. Louder, please.
It's service. It's about service. It is not about you and me and whether I get elected or you get elected. It is about what needs to happen for our region, our province, to prosper, to be able to move forward. We cannot stay where we're at. We cannot continue to have people living increasingly on the streets, in poverty, in destitute circumstances. Nothing good will come from this. Nothing good will come from this. We cannot be like that. We have to move forward. You can't throw up your hands and say, well, this is outside of my purview because that's provincial or that. Well, listen, it's time everybody needs to come together and go, okay, we have a plan. This is our plan. As the plan, we need to put it here and say, here's our plan, give us the money.
And some of it,
here's the plan, this is the funding we need, give me the money.
Absolutely. And some of it for me is also goes back to when you were talking about that human rights lens, right? There are certain types of housing and ways of living that we feel folks that are unhoused should just be okay with.
Oh my gosh.
Because I remember those calls when people were struggling, and some people were mad that you don't just take this horrible place.
We are putting single mothers with children into rooming houses. I visited a place in a basement apartment with no doors, no kitchen, no bathroom, and only one exit, so it's illegal. I have gone to places where there have been no drywall in the whole place. I have been to places where you go in and the ceiling is collapsed. I've gone to places where you walk in there and I start wheezing because there is so much mold in the place. And they are told, well, at least you got a roof over your head. Listen, man, people are getting sick and dying because of things like that. We cannot allow that to continue. We can't allow it to happen. We must do better than this, and we can. And it is time that we put service first. And we look after our people. Because if our people are looked after, the region is looked after. The province is looked after, the country is looked after, people will be able to live, then they can work, then they can go to school, they can concentrate, and who knows where we will go in the future.
Absolutely.
But if we're not gonna do it,
absolutely,
we got a problem.
And you know what, this brings me to the perfect place. So I ask all of my guests this final question. If you could snap your fingers and fix one system problem, one systemic issue could be fixed with the snap of your fingers, what would it be?
What could it be?
What could it be?
I think the way that we compensate people who are on ODSP and on OW.
Yeah.
And for that matter, the minimum wage.
Yep.
Whether you want to say yay or nay, the government basically set the poverty line.
Yep.
It's $2,000. CERB was $2,000 a month. At $2,000 a month, they said people can live.
Yeah.
Well, then no one should get paid less than $2,000 a month.
Period.
And that, my friend, is what we could change.
You know what? That's fantastic. So one of the things that I'm going to do for those that are watching is make sure that I have links to the information about OW and ODSP, because sometimes we say these words. I find myself saying how underwaged people are with OW and ODSP, and it's like they don't believe it.
Things like CPPD.
Yeah.
Because CPP disability, you don't get anything for health care like you would in ODSP. So you get even less. I mean, we have people in desperate situations. There is no reason why they should not be compensated in such a way that they could manage to live.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is more expensive for us to have to look after people than it is to pay them.
Yep. Yep.
If we housed more people, it would cost us less than putting them in shelters.
Yep.
There's so many things, but we are stuck in this little thing of being punitive, of punishing people.
For poverty.
Because they're not what you want them to be.
Yeah.
And it's wrong.
So I'm going to make sure to have information about OW and ODSP and CPPD. May as well put it all in there.
Yep.
And I'm also going to find some of the more recent petitions on guaranteed basic income.
Yes.
Though we haven't had an opportunity to speak about that at length, I think you've touched on what those guiding principles are.
Definitely something to be explored.
So I know that MP Mike Morris, for instance, does a lot of advocacy there. I know that MP Leah Gazan out in Winnipeg does a whole ton of advocacy around that federally as well. So I am going to get some of those petitions and make sure that they're available for folks.
100%.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the prevention piece is also part of this educational piece that we're doing, and I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for the work that you do in community, Marjorie, and for your insights and your courage in standing up in all of these spaces. Like, I don't know how you do it, but you do. And you speak about and hold the most vulnerable with so much care, love, and compassion. So thank you for that.
It is about community.
Yeah.
And if we can stand as a community for what we need, then we will succeed. And so I will just keep plugging away at being part of community.
Thank you, Marjorie. Thank you so much. And for everyone watching, we will be right back.
Hello, welcome to Lions TV Bingo. An announcement, we are now on Mondays. Yes, every Monday from now on, Lions TV Bingo is going to be here on Rogers. We'll see you this Monday.
Your Region This Week takes you behind the headlines on issues and events shaping our community. Tune in for new episodes on Mondays at 7:30 p.m. and Fridays at 6 p.m.
Wealth. The Royal City. Learn about the people, places, organizations, and events that make up your hometown. Join us each and every episode to learn more about wealth and what's happening in the Royal City.
With clubs, leagues, and courts in every province and territory across Canada, squash is the sport for wall-to-wall fun, fitness, and friendship. from coast to coast to coast. Learn to play and you'll want to do it every day. Squash. Play inside the box.
Hey, Chef D here. Join me Saturdays at 4:30 for At Home with Chef D, season number 10. Thanks so much for that. Hey, we're gonna go back old school. We're gonna join Julia Child and Graham Kerr and some of their great recipes and share some of their passion with you. At Home with Chef D, Saturdays at 4:30. Won't you join me?
Cooking with Chef D.
Well, welcome back. Wasn't that an amazing conversation with Marjorie Knight? Honestly, I'm very, very excited to share with you some of the resources that we discussed in this interview. Don't forget to follow me at everydaypolitics_official on Instagram. You'll be able to access everything there, and you'll also be able to access everything on the website for the program. I'm going to be sure to include things like information from the Homelessness Learning Hub. So you can actually download the point-in-time survey that's being used so that you have a sense of the kinds of questions that we're asking folks. I'm also going to make sure to include the plan to end chronic homelessness that Marjorie was speaking about, which is being overseen by the region and centering the voices of community members who understand on the ground what is needed to make this change. As promised, I will make sure to find some petitions around guaranteed basic income, around the increase for OW ODSP. There have been a number of petitions, and now with Queen's Park in session, it's our opportunity to actually push to ensure that people have the amount of money that they need to survive. I will also be sure to connect the House of Friendship food program. Information for that food program I'll make sure to include. And also, when we were off air, Marjorie was speaking to me about the Fresh Food Mobile, which is out in Cambridge. I'm going to also make sure to include some information there and anything else that I find. If you want to be on the show, or if you have some show ideas, people you'd like me to talk to, be sure to reach out and follow me at everydaypolitics_official on Insta. Have an amazing, amazing day, and we will see you next time.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
Donations to the War Amps have a lasting impact on amputees. Today, your support gives them the artificial limbs and resources they need for everyday activities and learning to live with amputation. Having access to our essential programs helps amputees prepare for tomorrow on their road to independence. The War Amps is committed to improving the quality of life for Canadian amputees, but this wouldn't be possible without you. To learn how your donation helps, visit waramps.ca.
Hey, we're Chris and Kim.
We are the hosts of What's Buzzin' Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. on Rogers TV.
We're going to chat about what's trending, interview some awesome guests, and just get to hang out with you. We're in your living room, having a blast on a Wednesday, and Cameron might bully me a little bit too.
Slightly.
That could happen too, because that's what we do.
Just because I'm here.
Yeah, and that's Wednesday nights on Rogers TV. Let's do this.
Your Region This Week takes you behind the headlines on issues and events shaping our community.